I was talking yesterday, maybe the day before, probably both days. You know, there's parts of town, just like everybody who lives in any city of any size, that there's parts of town you just don't get to. And one of those, I'm in downtown Shreveport a lot, but for whatever reason, my life never takes me over the Texas Street, OK Allen Earl Long Bridge.
Yep.
And when I say never, I went over it on Saturday, and I said, wait a second. When did we start working on this? Aaron says, a little over a year ago. I said, seriously, they must not have barn swallows.
They don't have barn swallows.
So tell us.
What's the deal? Why on the Jimmy
Barn
Davis Bridge?
swallows are very selective. They like to go where they like to go, and you can't control that. And for some reason, I think it has a lot to do with being over the water. We have barn swallows all on I-49, so it can't be just water. We've got actually barn swallows on some of the overpasses on I-49 North.
Well, they don't like the Texas Street Bridge?
I don't think they like downtown.
Right next to a hotel, you look in the windows, God knows what you
bright.
see. Explain to everybody, for God's sake, close the drapes, lady. So explain to everyone, because this is something, I don't get into a lot of political arguments, discussions, etc. on social media. But every time somebody starts on the Jimmy Davis Bridge, there is so much misinformation.
There is.
About the barn swallows, the plans, the $25 million set aside. Bring everybody up to date.
Because that bridge would be done by now on the earlier schedule.
Well,
on the earliest schedule, we would have closed that bridge for a year, and you would have had better pavement. It doesn't address your congestion needs. And at the end of the day, if we really want to grow and build our economy and build our communities, I can't just keep you in a two-lane structure. And the reality is, if I spend maintenance money from the federal government on that bridge, I have to get the utility out of it before I use more federal dollars on it. And so the question becomes, did it make sense for me to close that bridge for a year plus and open it back up with the same 2 lanes of road that you have? Or do you deserve a better bridge that's 4 lanes that's going to address the future growth of Caddo and Bossier?
Pardon me, at the end of the day, to use that cliche, at the end of the day, the barn swallows and the EPA mandated rules protecting that species were not the be-all and end-all of your decision. Were they in some way part of that decision, and the inconvenience and the added expense, and how it would have limited the time frame for working?
Well, you know, the maintenance project is one that we had let, and the decision was made previously to go ahead and do the maintenance. At the end of the day, there's some environmental concerns that says I could not do the project because of where the barn swallows were and how their mating season goes, and what it would cost us to absolutely deal with that. Those aren't rules that we've created, but those are rules that we have to live by because of the money that we're using. And the decision was made to cancel that project. And I think it was a mutually agreeable decision, both for the contractor who had to do the work because it was unforeseen work, as well as the state because we would have had unforeseen cost, and we'd have had overruns and all kinds of things on that project. And at the end of the day, we want to build the right project. We want to build a bridge.
As Aaron says, I think the radio phrase is, to clean it up a little bit, the poop to dollars ratio.
Yeah.
What you're saying is the state's poop to dollars ratio just didn't make sense anymore.
It didn't make sense, but you know, you also have to think about what is our future. Let's make the right policy decision for infrastructure and for everything, not just infrastructure, but for everything. What's the long-term gain? When we plan roads, we look at 30 years from now. If we're building a road for the next 30 years, why do we have to go back and rebuild exactly what we have unless we say in 30 years what we have now is what we want? And so I don't think that's the vision.
A new bridge is on your list.
A new bridge is absolutely on my list.
How
a four-lane structure.
How high up on your list?
Just clean up the one we have and build another 2 lanes, so you have two lanes.
So my preference, my personal preference, my professional preference is to build a 4-lane structure and convert the existing Jimmy Davis Bridge as a pedestrian way so that folks can bike and ride across that bridge. It's a lot less on maintenance, and you could have a much better, a much safer
parkways
on each side, and have a 4-lane structure that doesn't interface with pedestrians or bicyclists.
So how high up is that 4-lane bridge on your list?
It is as high as the 16 cents will get me, because had the gas tax passed in 2017, that bridge was funded. Not just that bridge, but a new bridge in Lake Charles, a new bridge in Baton Rouge. It goes back to what can I afford? In my personal life, if I can't afford it, I'm not going to write a check for it. I can't cash that check. I'm not going to write it. The same thing happens with infrastructure from a government perspective. If I can't afford it, I'm not going to commit to build it and deceive the public that we can afford some of those things.
When you say if the gas tax had passed, are you talking the 17 cents?
17 cents.
The 17 cents that failed,
cents.
or the 40?
The 17 cents that never got a vote.
Or this? So you're not talking the 40 center that was the Edwards administration original proposal.
No,
the shot across the
original proposal was 17 cents. What we said was, and this is how the folks will mix match everything we said. We said if we want to build everything we want, it's going to cost us 25 cents. And the governor said, let's be practical, let's be reasonable, and do 17 cents. And why 17? Because 17 cents was really restoring the value of the 16 cents. It's only worth about 7 cents today. There's no cup of coffee, no cell phone, no Coca-Cola that's going to be the price in 2019 of what it was in 1987. Or 1984, right. And that's the reality. No one, I would ask you both, could you live off of the salary that you made in 1984 today? You can't.
No.
That's what the state of Louisiana is doing for infrastructure.
So are you saying today, Dr. Shawn Wilson, Secretary of DOTD, if we do not increase the gas tax in Louisiana, we will not get a new Jimmy Davis Bridge?
I'm not saying you have to increase the gas tax, but you need additional revenue. Whatever that source is, if it's tolls, if it's gas tax, if it's state general fund, if it is an infra grant, if it is federal money, whatever it is, you're going to have to pay for it, because in reality, I've closed 17 bridges in 2019 alone. I have to take care of 16,000 miles of road with the same level of income that I was getting in 1990, and deal with debt service, and deal with increased cost of insurance and salaries and benefits, and the cost of steel, the cost of asphalt, the cost of concrete.
If
everything
the
increases.
Local citizens said, okay, we want a tolled Jimmy Davis Bridge, would that be enough to fund it?
I got $20 million I can match it with now.
And we could do
and
it.
there are folks who walk in my office on a regular basis, when I say regular, once or twice a year, that says, I've got an equity fund that I could spend $100 million on that bridge and get the repay back over the next 30 years with a modest toll. I'm interested in doing that.
What's the price tag on your 4-lane structure?
It's about $125 million.
Okay, so you say you got 20, but on the other hand, wouldn't a toll bridge, you say you want to relieve congestion. What kind of congestion do toll booths on either side of the bridge cause?
The toll booths.
Or do you run a card? Either.
So however you pay for it, the reality.
Like in Texas, where it just beeps.
No, you can do it where you just beep. You can do a no toll booth bridge. It's called all electronic tolling, and the technology is there to be able to do that you can go 50, 60, 75 miles per hour and still get a toll. It's not going to defer it, because you're going to pay a premium price for a premium service. If you don't want to pay the price, get on the interstate.
No, I was not being facetious about that, because every time I go to Dallas and come home a month later, I get pictures of my car.
You get
and
a
the
picture
bill.
of your license plate and the bill, and guess what? You pay it. We can do the same thing that Texas does, that Alabama does, that Florida does, but you need the will to say we're going to do it and not expect the state to do it for you at the expense. When the interstate was built and some of these bridges were built, the federal government said, here's a pot of money, go build it. That's not the reality today. And so we can make a decision that we want to pay for what we want, or accept the fact that we don't want to pay it, or we're not going to pay it, and the condition of what we have now. But I still have to take care of it.
You still have our $25 million?
I still have to maintain it.
You still have the $25 million that was going to be used on it?
The millions, the $19 million, because remember, we actually contracted out the maintenance. So some of that's been spent. We've got the $19 million in capital outlay today for that bridge. Okay. The reality is I'm still short $100+ million. That $125 million is a year or two estimate, so it's probably increased because of the year or two. And depending on what's happening in the market and the economy and what prices are for steel and what the competition looks like, it might be a little bit more than that, and I expect that it would. I'm still short that $100+ million, and you don't want the state of Louisiana doing a contract if I can't pay for the bill. And we don't do that. The law requires me to have all the money up front before I sign a contract.